indeed.
I think we're going to come back to letters of direction, but just as we're on SROs, if there's a cosy consensus here that there is a problem with SROs, why has it taken so long to get management information at the centre on SROs and what's happening in relation to SROs?
Well, we've been in government.
No, I'm asking.
I don't think this, in an odd way.
The question with respect.
In an odd way, I don't think this is a. Yeah, it's not.
What I'm saying is, in 2006, the PAC reported in relation to IT programmes that half of SROs were in their first role, and nearly half spend less than 20% of their time on their duties. So that was being identified in 2006. In 2008, it was found that 8 of the 18 SROs and major projects had no substantial commercial experience. Last year, it was identified that the average turnover was 18 months. At the last hearings, August, we had more than 2 months ago, I asked for a note on the project management qualifications of SROs, and yet no note has been provided. And so the impression given is that the centre just does not have adequate oversight and grip on the commercial experience, the turnover and accountability of SROs.
I think that's a perfectly good point. I think we've been improving from a low base, and I still think there's more to do in this space. In the last Parliament, the Treasury set up a major projects group with the Office of Government Commerce. I think that's evolving in something bigger and better under this administration based in the Cabinet Office. But that highlighted precisely that point. And we were very clear in drawing attention, the certain basics in creating successful projects. And actually, when it came to releasing funding for major projects, it was conditional on the major projects group assessing that the project was being sensibly run. So I think we have made progress, but I fully accept that we need to do more.
So if we take, for example, the fire control project, which was a particular disaster, £423 million project to regionalise the services, they've just been scrapped. If I look at my area, the east of England, they built one for £24 million. It then stood empty at a cost of £116,000 a month because they couldn't get the phone lines to work. The new government has now come in and scrapped them. So to use the Fire Brigades Union quote, a classic government cocker, that project had 10 SROs in 5 years. So Gus and Nicholas, you're at the centre of the civil service machine. When we come to look at that as a committee, who are we holding accountable? Are we holding one of those 10 SROs? Are we holding the permanent secretary? Who is it we're holding accountable for that project?
I think ultimately you've got to hold the accounting officer responsible for all of these things. I mean, that's the whole process of it, and the accounting officer for the relevant department. Exactly,
which is what I thought. So the logical thing, therefore, to do was to look at the letter of appointment of the accounting officer, and I requested the letter of appointments for every permanent secretary. And the interesting thing there was they're all the same. It's just a generic 2-page letter making reference to a whole raft of other documents, which I presume a permanent secretary is never going to read on appointment, because I imagine taking on a big department, they've got other priorities to deal with. And as we saw with the accountability issue, there's obviously issues of the affordable point with the MOD, there's obviously areas of confusion. So why is it that we don't move to a situation where those letters of appointment are department specific? So we actually have something bespoke for each permanent secretary.
Well, let me start. I mean, there are 2 issues here. There's one is there are generic issues that every accounting officer has to take into account. And the idea that they're arriving on there as permanent secretary and then suddenly realising, oh my goodness, I'm now an accounting officer. I mean, these are issues that they will have been dealing with through their careers. They don't just suddenly get there, right? So they'll know about this. They've got things like managing public money. The Treasury will have given them all sorts of issues. But obviously, for every single department, there are very different issues. There are major projects, but there'll be some that are underway, but others that are in train, and some that will be to come. So, I mean, you could, but it will be quite a lengthy list of issues. And, I think one of the things I can do, which I have definitely tried to do, which Nick has already referred to, is try to ensure that permanent secretaries stay in place for longer. And one of the things I've tried to do, and I think that's absolutely crucial, I would dearly love Secretaries of State to stay in, and Ministers to stay in place much longer.
I've got much job security in this job.
So I think those things are very important. But we will take these. The major projects thing has come across to the Cabinet Office, and Ian Watmore is now completely going to sort these things out. And I apologise we haven't got back to you on that.
We're going to come. But it is.